We are now live. Order at 12:35 p.m. and read the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Calderman is located on the Mississauga and Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. The Township of Calderman respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Thank you. There's a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council session of Thursday, November 18th, 2021 be approved as circulated. Have a mover, please. Deputy Mayor Gibson and Councillor Hogg, all in favor? Carried. The regular council meeting, November 4th. Be it resolved that the regular council session minutes of November 4th, 2021 be approved. Mover? Councillor Hogg, second, Councillor Booth, all in favor? Carried. Item 6 is our delegation today, and it's a report from Richard Stenenga, CPA, CA, partner at Baker Tilly, KDN, LLP, and Township Auditor. And today's report is on the comparative analysis to December 31st, 2020. Be it resolved that the council permit Richard Stenenga, CPA, CA, partner at Baker Tilly, KND LLP, to take the floor to present the Township of Alma Calderman Auditor's Report and Analysis to December 31st, 2020. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Phillip, second. Deputy Mayor Gibson, all in favor? Carried. Okay, Richard, welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. With me today is the audit manager for the township, being Dwayne Potter. Also attending here in this meeting.
Welcome, Dwayne.
And then what we shall do is lead you through the comparative analysis document that is part of your agenda. And as well too, I believe the other additional documents are there, but this comparative analysis summarizes both the detailed audited draft financial statements as well as the audit reporting letters. So I'll just run you through the presentation and then try to address your questions as we go through. So first off, I wasn't sure, did you want me to share the screen or is this fine?
You're able to share the screen. I think that's good.
Or whether Yolanda is able to call up the presentation. I'm not sure if I should be able to share.
Richard, I've made it so you can share your screen if you wanted to do your presentation.
That I will then. Here. Move that over to there. Sorry about that. Too many screens open. There we go. Can you see the presentation now? Okay, good.
Just make
All
it
right.
a full screen, that'd be fine.
Okay. That's as large as I can make it, I believe, on my end. So that's okay. You can see it as I move through.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see it.
All right. Okay. So first off, within the draft audited financial statements, you will find first the management report, which is consistent with the prior year. And then next after that, the following 2 pages are our audit report on the draft consolidated financial statement. And the important paragraph out of the 2-page document there is the second paragraph, that in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Township of Alma, Calderman at December 31, 2020, and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, or more commonly known as PSAB. So that is your standard, clean, unqualified auditor's report. A couple of things to point out here. So then when it does say consolidated, it does include all operations of the township, as well as the operations of the library board. So when we look at the schedules, they include both of those amounts added together. And yes, as well too, PSAB is the reporting mechanism that the ministry does require you to use. And keep in mind that is different than how you budget. So we will try to highlight the differences between the two as we go through the presentation, but just it is a clean and unqualified audit opinion. And of course, we are doing a financial statement audit, so it doesn't necessarily include everything that that you might get from, let's say, an internal control review or an organizational review or certain things like that. So next, we'll just focus here on the type of things that we do within the audit. And that includes reviewing the minutes of council, and then as well doing testing within the accounting records, including sampling, analytical review, taking a look at various estimates, management estimates, and then as well looking at the systems documentation and then internal control related testing. And then as well, looking at the main items being your inflows of your revenues, and then your 2 major outflows being your disbursements and payroll. And then as well too, taking a look at journal entries, which are items then that adjust the amounts that you see within the financial records. Overall, now the audit is complete, pending council's approval of the financial statements, the receipt of the signed representation letter. Now, we did have, when we produced this report, we were awaiting the receipt of the legal letter. We just received that this morning, so that could come off the list of things that needs to be done. Overall, there were no changes to our initial audit plan or disagreements or difficulties with management, and excellent cooperation from your management and staff, although trying to audit in a virtual world does add complexities throughout the year, and as well to the ability to acquire information, and so it does extend the timeline of completing certain things within the audits. And then one thing to note for uncorrected audit differences, there was one item that was not adjusted, and that relates to the interest accrual on the debenture that you took out for the fire hall. You budget to pay the 2 required payments, but the one payment is the last payment of the year is due in August, so therefore the interest accrued on that for this year from August till the end of December was about $19,000, but that amount was not set up more so to be consistent with how you budget, as you always will budget for 2 payments on that a year. So we just need to make you aware of that. That was $19,387, which is well below your materiality limit. So therefore, it wasn't adjusted, and we're not asking it to be adjusted. We're just making you aware of that. Next, we come to your summary of your financial assets. So these are financial assets or assets that are either cash or items that ideally will be turned into cash. So when we take a look at this, there was quite an improvement year over year for the municipality. A number of things there helped increase the value of your cash at the end of the year. Your reserves, you were able to increase your reserve balances at the end of the year for almost $1.6 million, as well as eliminating some the capital and operating deficits from the prior years, and as well too your the monies you collected but hadn't spent yet for development charges also went up by about 600,000. So that all of those three items help contribute to your increase in your cash there. Your investments remain the same. Your accounts receivable, they did decrease, and majority of that is related to your HST rebate, as you in 2020 did not spend as much on capital as you had in the prior year, so therefore you weren't entitled to as much of a rebate. So that explains majority of the difference within your receivables. And then your other large financial asset is the taxes receivable that the ratepayers still owe the township. And keep in mind too that you pay the county and school boards regardless of whether you've collected the amounts from the ratepayers. You can see there that it went up about almost $140,000 year over year to almost 1.4 million. But keep in mind the ratios that the ministry looks at is the percentage of the amounts that are levied. So in total, that percentage went up 0.4% from 9.2 to 9.6%. So you're still within the low risk range as prescribed by the ministry. Next, then we just look at a graphical display of that over the last 5 years, and you can see the increase in your cash balance this year, as already noted. And then we look at the financial liability. So these then are the amounts that you owe to others. Overall, you can see the accounts payable and accrued liabilities are down significantly, and that's due to the fact you paid at the end of last year, you owed the county for the fire hall, and then you paid that when the debenture came in. So that's why there's the large increase there. And then the remaining amounts this year are just your standard trade accounts payable, your known accruals, your prepaid taxes, people who have credits on their tax accounts and get moved over to payables for the year-end report, and as well to deposits from developers and other organizations that are looking to do work. And then as well too, the deferred revenue obligatory reserve fund. So that's where the unspent monies for your development charges and your gas tax are reported. And the big change there is your development charges did increase, as I said earlier, by about 600,000 year over year. So that money is sitting there. You have the cash, and then you need to spend it in accordance with the requirements under the for both gas tax and the Development Charges Act. Deferred revenue other represents funds related to COVID relief that you're carrying over from the province to the following year. And long-term debt, you can see the increase there, and that's as a result of the borrowing for the fire hall, offset by principal payments of $108,000. And then you can see there the 5-year summary of that. You can see the payables being high the 2 years, and then coming back down this year after paying the county for the fire hall. Next, we come to your non-financial assets. So these are assets that do get reported, but they do not get turned into cash. They get used as you provide the services to your ratepayers. And you can see there the overall biggest amount there is your tangible capital assets. and that's the net book value of them. And then you have your prepaid expenses, items that were paid in 2020 that relate to 2021, and then inventories of supplies that then your roads value of stock that will be transferred over to the next year. Now we come to the statement of operations, and I will turn it over to Dwayne to just walk you through a few highlights on this slide.
I unmute there. So you've got your consolidated statement of operations, including your budget 2020, actual 2020, and the year 2019 comparatives. It shows your total revenues and expenses, which we'll dive into a little later in the next couple of slides, and then your PSAB annual surplus deficit. Under PSAB, your deficit is 955 compared to an actual of 190. And then down in the bottom section, it transfers that PSAB annual surplus into your more what you would expect for your budgeting based surplus deficit. So the reconciliation there from the 955 on the budget coming down to 0 at the bottom, you've got your TCA, tangible capital asset, transactions that you don't budget for, being your amortization of 2.8 million, purchases of tangible capital assets of just over 2 million. Your change in unfunded capital of 2.3 million, which is mainly related to your long-term debt, your transfers to and from reserves, which is are budgeted for but are not included in the PSAB revenues and expenses. Your long-term debt issued, which is netted against your unfunded capital there, so that clears out to 0. And then your principal repayments for the debt during the year. And you'd also budgeted for a surplus on the township side of 140,000 to net off your previous year's deficit. So that's kind of how this reconciles your PSAB to your normal budget.
And as you can see at the bottom, it does come to 0 as what is expected for setting your tax rate.
And then, go ahead, Richard.
Oh, okay. And this slide just gives you a comparison of what's in your accumulated surplus to your tangible capital assets. You can see there your accumulated surplus is into the millions, 25 million range, and that a lot of that is being driven by your tangible capital assets. And I guess that what the main takeaway here is you always want to ensure the orange bar is higher than the blue bar, so that you do have, which shows that you do have equity outside of your capital assets. And then a summary of your revenues and expenses for the last 5 years and your annual surplus. And depending on when you acquire capital assets, this gray bar, the surplus deficit, will vary from year to year, depending on, as I said, capital purchases and the various funding that is available. And I'll turn it back over to Dwayne as to take a look at the revenues.
Right, so then you've got your financial activities revenues. Just kind of go over a couple of the highlights. Your property taxation is consistent with your budget for your current year. Your user charges are 150,000 over budget, and as well increased over the previous years. The reason for that, there's about $45,000 in insurance recovery. Pits and quarries revenue was up 28,000. Building permits were up 55,000, and water fees were up 40,000. There was also some decreases. The bag tags decreased to about 22,000 because that was being waived. Planning fees were down to 36,000, and your rec facilities were down about 40,000 due to closures during the pandemic. For your government transfers, big decrease from the previous year, but in 2019, there was $577,000 of funding received from the province for modernization grant, which wasn't applicable for the current year. But within the current year, there's $147,000 of COVID funding that's included in that line, and that's why that's over budget. Penalties and interest is a little bit over budget, but considerably under last year. Now, there was also related to COVID there. You've waived penalties and interest for a significant portion of the year, which resulted in that reduction. Then you've got donated tangible capital assets and developer contributions with no actuals for the current year. Because those are just based on amounts that you actually incurred during the year, and you didn't allocate any of those funding to current year projects. Federal gas tax earned $208,000, right on budget in the previous year. Your gains and losses on disposals of TCA last year was a loss on disposal, mainly due to some disposals of roads, and the current year was a gain on disposal. Included in that is $412,000 of insurance proceeds from fire vehicle that was destroyed. The other revenues, considerable decrease from the previous year, but 2019 included $200,000 sale of land. And then there was also the Buy a Brick initiative that had quite a bit of revenue in 2019. Also included in the other revenues is investment income, which is down about $53,000 in the current year, mainly due to interest rate decreases. And the next slide is just a graphical representation of all of those revenues, and you can see that your property taxes, 68% of your revenues, and then the next largest sections being your government transfers at 12 and user charges at 9.8. So revenues are fairly smaller portions. The next slide is your financial activities expenses. This is by department. So general government is just slightly over budget due to COVID costs, and legal is a little bit over budget, but decreased from the previous year as well. There was a website redesign for about $50,000 in the previous year. Your protection services is down from both actual 2019 and budget. Fire wages down 37,000. Materials for fires down 50,000, and then building wages is up slightly from the previous year. For your transportation services, down about 400,000 from the previous year, mainly due to decreases in wages of 125,000. Not all your projects could be completed due to the pandemic. And then also your amortization, which isn't a cash item, but it decreased 236,000 from 2019. And that's just due to a number of roads that were fully amortized in 2019. So there was no amortization on those in 2020. Your recreation and cultural services down from the previous year, mainly due to the pandemic as well. Wages and benefits, materials, and contracted services all down within Parks and Rec and the library. And then the next slide is just a graphical representation of those percentages. So transportation at 46%, and then protection 26%, and general government at 14%. And then the next slide is your expenses, the same amounts that were on the previous slide, just broken out by function as opposed to department. So you got your salaries and wages, slightly up from the previous year, but under budget. Interest charges up from the previous year due to the long-term debt being taken out. Contracted services down from the previous year, due to legal decreases, as well as several studies that were taken on in 2019 that were not applicable in 2020. Year rents and financial expenses, considerable decrease from the previous year. But the previous year included the interest expense on the advances to the county, because those are not long-term debt charges, which are the only amounts included in the interest charges up above. And external transfers fairly close to budget, and amortization, as I mentioned, is down due to the fully amortized roads. Next slide, another graphical representation, and kind of your amortization, salaries, and benefits materials are all within kind of a 20 to 30% range of your total expenses. Accumulated surplus.
So then this here, to me, is the one of the important slides within the deck. We have looked at a lot of numbers, both presented in a PSAB format, but now this slide then gives you a breakdown of your $24 million in accumulated surplus, and goes to explain why you don't have $24 million in the bank. And that's due to the fact that a lot of your surplus, $19 million of that, is created for the amount you have invested in your tangible capital assets. So that's the net book value of all your assets, less the debt you have associated with it, as we saw previously. So yeah, 19.3 of the $24 million is related to tangible capital assets. So that's not funds you have available to spend. The couple highlights here within the surplus deficit areas, you're able to eliminate the township opening deficit of 91,000, and then it brings it to zero at the end of the year. And the library board at the start of 2020 had almost a $15,000 deficit, and then that was brought down but an $8,700 in-year surplus for the library, bringing that down to $6,200 at the end of 2020. And then really what you have left moving forward are your reserve and your reserve fund balances, and you can see there that they did increase by about $1.6 million, and that's partially due to departmental surpluses, and as well too setting monies aside initially right at the budget stage. As well, portion of the increase in reserves is related to the proceeds you received on the one fire vehicle, the insurance proceeds, as those monies are set aside as the replacement equipment hasn't arrived yet, so it's been set aside for future use. So you can see there, that's why a large increase there within the fire, and as well too within general savings within set aside in general government, and then increases to roads and other. And there were increases there for building recreation, and as well the library board's reserves increased as well, about 36,000, giving you $4.8 million at the end of the year. That can be utilized moving forward. And then you have your 5-year graphical bar graph display of that, and you can see there that most of the bars are higher, so that's a good thing, so that you can you have resources set aside moving forward. And then as well too, you should always then take a look at your reserves in comparison to your long-term capital plans and your asset management plan, just to ensure that you can maintain and keep your asset base regenerating as projected, and as well too then balancing that with keeping your tax rate on a nice predictable increase year over year, so that that can be done moving forward, so that everyone can kind of know what to expect, as well as increasing your asset value and the condition of your assets. And speaking of that, then this graph just gives you a highlight of this year's capital spending year over year, and your total additions to capital this year were slightly over $1 million, whereas in the previous year there were 2.5, mainly related to the fire hall, and about $1 million under budget this year. But as usual, roads and bridges are one of the main drivers within your tangible capital assets, and there were a number of projects completed. And then as well too, you did acquire a roads vehicle and machinery and equipment, as well as the backhoe, and then some work on the buildings and the sand dome and the community center, and then as well too some work at the ballpark for your land improvements. And then the next slide just gives you an idea as to your comparisons to your TCA additions versus the amortization. And you can see there, but with the additions, mainly with the fire hall, both in 2018 and 2019, they were higher, and then this year they were a little lower. And as for most municipalities, with COVID, it was a difficult time to get some capital projects going. So, and then next we just take a look at your average useful life on this slide, as to how much of that is book-wise depreciated versus undepreciated. Now, one thing to always keep in mind when you look at the amounts reported as tangible capital assets within public sector set of statements is that they're based on the original cost value. So it's what did it cost you to buy it? So if you bought a truck or sorry, a building like the one most of you are sitting in now, that would be fully amortized, but to replace it now would be significantly more. So just keep in mind, all these values are based on cost, and then they get depreciated. And unfortunately, there's no correlation between that and what the replacement cost is. And finally, your net financial assets, you can see there the increases, and then as well with the both 2018 and 2019, if you recall, your capital additions were high on the previous slide, and then of course that increased your liability to the county. So your net financial assets decreased, and then this year when you borrowed and paid that off, and as well too were able to set aside more funds into your reserves, it did return back to almost an identical amount back in 2017. And I mean, you're in the black here. I mean, if the bars would go below this line, they do turn red, so you still remain in the black on that perspective. And then that is a summary of where the municipality ended up at the end of the year. Sure if anyone had any questions.
Questions or clarification. If we go to page 28, which is, it talks about the cash and investments. So wouldn't it be normal? Does that then come to council or whatever? It looks like our investments are quite low. $8,363 when we've almost doubled our cash. Is that something that is automatically that we put into investments? Like, does it go into bonds or something like that? Or
yeah, I mean,
council directs that, or is that just something that we normally do? I'm not sure.
yeah, I mean, what we've been finding lately with the rate of returns that you can get perhaps in a shorter term market compared to the interest you earn on your actual bank account, there isn't that much difference between investing, but a lot of that too will be dictated by your investment policy. So, but yeah, for a lot of municipalities, they get a good general rate of return on their bank account. So the time involved to manage that versus the gain you might get on some additional return, additional investment vehicle. Doesn't always make sense in that respect.
Okay, so that's something we can look into, have our treasurer look into, right? Whether or not it's better for us to take some of that cash on hand and put it in an investment or something.
That's right,
My
yeah.
next question or clarification is on page 40, talks about expenses. And it talks about our actual rents and financial. That $9,780, do you know what that's from? Is that from community center rentals, or I'm thinking it's low unless I'm
Right.
wrong, like the rent that we get from early on, they would
So
have
that-
continued to pay in 2020, wouldn't they?
So then is this the number you're looking at up on screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is actually on the expense side. So this is money that you're paying out. And so that would include
Bank charges.
bank charges or the exact amount there. Oh yes, and I think too, the majority of that though, as Dwayne had stated, both that and the prior year does relate to monies paid to the county on the short-term borrowings for the fire hall until you converted until you paid the county and then converted it into a loan. So of that 9780, about 6600 of that relates to interest paid for that, and then the balance of that relates to bank charges. And I think now your inflow of monies related to rentals, you will find it on this page here called financial activities within the user charges. And so that's, I believe Dwayne had indicated there was about 40 within that revenue line. The facilities rentals, they're part of the 953, and they were down 40,000 year over year.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
okay.
clarifying that one on. And just one other thing, Richard, is I could be wrong, but isn't there in the last few that we've had done, don't we have a comparison to other municipalities? Is that not in this?
Yeah, just because of timing, both for within COVID and comparator municipalities, some of that information wasn't available. So we for this year, then we just stopped providing that because some of your comparators, the information wasn't available. So it just wasn't presented in the same fashion, wasn't available to be presented in the same fashion. So we didn't present that.
Okay,
Something we can ideally do in future years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If there's nothing further, I mean, I think financially, township is sitting in a good position moving forward. You were able to eliminate the township deficit. You were able to increase your reserves and your cash balances, and hopefully then that provides you the needed resources to move into the future years. So just to thank your staff for providing us the information, although, as I said earlier, that auditing within a pandemic and remotely does make it more difficult for both us and them. It'll be nice to get to a point where we can attend and do audits on site, as that makes it more efficient for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Questions regarding the report? No? Can't see Mike. There he is. No questions, Mike?
No, I have There we go. No, I have no questions. I'm just really pleased that, our staff has done such a good job of balancing things and putting us in a position to move forward.
And Dwayne, we're very pleased with this year's, especially, or 2020, especially with the challenges that we've faced through COVID and, staff did very well coming into the office and trying to do as much business as usual and keeping it organized as they did. And it shows here in these reports. So like to give a little handout for our staff as well as you and Dwayne. We're pleased with this report.
Thank you.
Hopefully the public is pleased to see as well and understands the difficulty of 2020 and 2021 when 2021 comes back. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
I didn't
good
ask
day.
if staff have any questions. Do you have any? No?
No, I don't have any. Just want to thank Richard for all his work. So.
Thanks, Richard. Dwayne,
Thank you. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
you too. So item 7 is business arising from the previous minutes. Are there any?
Madam Mayor, you should have a resolution to receive the report from Richard and Dwayne.
Oh, okay. I thought I did that. Did we vote on it? I read it. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder. I remember reading it.
That was
Deputy Mayor Gibson, Deputy Mayor Gibson is moving. Have a second. Councillor Hogg, all in favor? Carried. Sorry. Now item 7, business arising from previous minutes. Anyone? Department reports now, item 8. 8.1 is a report from Brian McMillan, Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation. Wicklow Road and Skyview Road, new stop and stop ahead sign. Okay, Brian. I
Yes,
need a motion first to get you to the floor. Have a mover, please. Councillor Hogg? Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Latchford and members of council. The report before you is, like I said, its subject is Wicklow Road and Skyview Road, new stop and stop ahead sign. The recommendation is be it resolved that the council of the Township of Alma Calderman approve the recommendations illustrated in the Wicklow Road and Skyview Road new stop and stop ahead sign report. And further, that Public Works Department install legislated signage before November 30th of 2021. And further, that the Manager of Public Works and Park Recreation report be received and filed. There is background to this report, and I did actually, we went across this road on our road tour with council and staff. I showed you some of the concerns and safety concerns from the residents in the area. There's currently no signage in place. And again, there's the financial impact is $200, but definitely feel this is warranted to have the stop sign, and because of the hill coming down to the stop sign fast, the stop ahead sign as well. So if there's any questions to the report, there is a map attached as well, but I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions? No? Okay. Brian read the recommendation and the motion, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. From Brian is report number PW 2021-15, and it's regarding design and build of our Centerton Public Works Facility Edition. So I'll get this one on the floor as well. Be it resolved that report from Brian McMillan, Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, dated November 18th, 2021. Redesign build of the Centerton Public Works Facility Addition, RFP number 2021-01 be received and filed. And we'll need a motion to that effect after a decision. Further, that Council of the Township of Alma-Calderman approve the recommendation to award Delren Limited with the design build of the Centerton Public Works Addition at a cost of $3,665,500 excluding HST. So that'll want me to do that one second. So that'll be the second motion. And right now I'll get the first motion on the floor. Have a mover? Councillor Hogg, second. Councillor Booth.
Okay. Yes, Mayor Latchford, members of council. Again, the mayor just read out the report there and the recommendation. The background, I'm sure you have a lot of time to read this. We did again stop at our Public Works existing facility in Centerton during our council road tour as well. This is a job that's been in the works for a couple of years now. Again, there was a mandatory site meeting. Four companies did show up for the site meeting. Two bidders bid on the proposal. Attached to this is the review and scoring from our consultant. In the financial, we have put some debenture amounts for council to review. These amounts are, you're going to be seeing shortly in our new 2022 budget, which you'll be seeing shortly. In inclusion, again, or back to the background again, this is an 11-bay addition to the Public Works building, updated offices, a training and lunchroom for staff, updating the washroom. And then as well, there is the accessibility part of this as well that we put in this upgrades, and hopefully are successful in accessibility grant that we did apply for that we haven't heard back on yet, that we might hear hopefully in the new year or early spring. That would help with the financing of this project. But again, in conclusion, again, it is a much needed upgrade. It is a large financial impact for the township, but very much needed. And again, I hope council agrees with this report and moves forward with awarding the project. I don't know if council has any questions regarding this. I'd be willing to answer.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions from council? Any comments? Councillor Booth?
Just through you, your worship, to Brian. So Brian, we're looking at approximately $400,000 because we are, the last paragraph, it talks about having a contingency fund of 200,000. And then we're going to go ahead with Jewel to pay them the 75,000 to do the management of the project, right?
Yes, the contingency is pretty well a number we come up with. And again, we haven't finalized any inspection work or peer review of the contractor, but those are rough numbers, but we feel pretty close that those would be the numbers we would needed to have in this project to finance and make sure it goes smoothly.
So if there's members of the public looking, I know you did send us an email this afternoon because it talks about from Jewel Engineering that they hadn't had time yet to vet the past performances of Dahlgren, but they have advised you, right, in an email or something, that everything's okay with them?
Yes, that is correct, Councillor Booth. I did get an email from our consultant that he did reach out and make contact with the references that Dahlgren listed, and they were all very positive and yeah, very happy with the comments made by the 4 different references that were put into it. And yeah, it was all positive. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Deputy Mayor Gibbs?
I would just like to comment on references for Dalren, and I had the pleasure of working with them as the project lead in the spring of 2019 for the build of Ed's house to substantial completion August of 2020. I can confirm they were on time and stayed within budget. While on site, they adhered to all health and safety requirements, both for their workers and for visitors. They maintained a consistent workforce throughout COVID. Good communication. They held weekly meetings with us and addressed any concerns. They continue right now after 1 year walkthrough of the anniversary of the handover. Continue to be responsive to us with any concerns that are raised. And I have the highest of praise for Dalren.
It's good to hear.
Company and well-known in the area as well. Okay. If there isn't anything further, I'll call for the vote on the first motion moved by Jim and seconded by Greg to receive and file. And do we want approve or move forward with the
Does it have to get budget approval? Like at budget time
yeah,
to do this?
it'll have
first?
to have budget approval
Okay.
as well. On it written to approve, received and filed, and approve.
You can now
With-
do it all in one
with-
motion, Madam Mayor.
I didn't hear what she said.
Sorry, you can do it all in one motion if you choose.
In one motion. Resolves the issue then. Further, that Council of the Township of Alma Calderman approve the recommendation toward Delrin Limited with the design build of the Centerton Public Works Edition at a cost of $3,655,500 excluding HST. So that's one motion moved by Councillor Hogg and Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. And Recreation Department. This is report number PC 2021-11 from Jennifer Steen, Parks, Recreation and Culture Coordinator, dated today, Ontario Trillium Foundation Resilient Communities Fund. Be it resolved that the report from Jennifer Steen, Parks, Recreation and Cultural Coordinator, dated November 18th, 2021, Ontario Trillium Foundation Resilient Communities Fund be received and filed, and further that council direct staff to submit an application for funding under the OTF Resilient Communities Fund. Can I have a mover, please? recommendation. I've read the motion, so council, be it resolved that the report from the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Coordinator, Ontario Trillium Foundation, OTF, Resilient Communities Fund be received, and further that council direct staff to submit an application for funding under the OTF Resilient Communities Fund. So applications December 10th, and the deadline to apply is December 8th. So she's listed some things here. It's going.
Jennifer is now off mute, Madam Mayor. If you wanted to speak to her, I don't know if she can hear you though.
Can you hear me now, Jennifer?
Can hear you now. Yes, thank you. Sorry, Mayor.
Okay,
your
did
audio was
you wish
dropping.
to, you wish to speak to this?
I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions about the report.
Okay. Councillor Booth has.
Just through you, your worship, to Jennifer. So Jennifer, how much are we going to be asking for and what projects are you looking at? Or is that still yet to be decided?
No, we have some ideas here. So we're looking at applying in between 75 and 100,000. And those would be for projects such as recreation management software that includes point of sale module, scheduling module, public access, and e-commerce. So that would make it easier for anybody to register and pay for any types of programs online. Renovating the reception areas to allow staff to safely check in members of the public at the arena and at the Alma Civic Center, as those locations both have a reception kiosk. So we would be looking at adding glass partitions and a lower level for accessibility for participants and users as they come into those facilities. Also looking at outdoor fitness equipment to be installed at the Calderman Memorial Park to allow for recreation opportunities without barriers. So if there was ever closures again, or anybody could use this for recreation and fitness without vaccination status, anything like that. So an outdoor option for recreation for adults or all ages.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? To have Jennifer go ahead and apply for that grant money. All in favor?
Jennifer leaves. If I could just ask a question, please, Jennifer, about some outdoor decorating at the Alma Civic Center and the partly Roseneath Park at typically, I think the Roseneath, both the ACC committee and the Roseneath revitalization handled the tree decorating. I wonder, do you know this year whether anybody is taking that on?
Yes, we've brought this up at the Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, and I have spoken with staff as well. And I'm preparing a Christmas tour of lights map for the township, and that would include all township facilities as well. So the ACC, the arena, all of the community centers, having those decorated for the holiday season. So I imagine it will be staff and perhaps volunteers from that committee that do the decorating this year.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. See what happens when you miss one committee meeting, you miss a whole lot.
Okay, we'll move on to item 10, the Treasury Department. Report number F 2021-11 from Carol James, Deputy CAO Manager of Finance, HR, dated today. This is Rewater Services. Be it resolved that the report from Carol James, Deputy CAO Manager of Finance, HR, dated November 18th, 2021, Rewater Services be received and filed, and further that council approve to appoint Lakefront Utilities, Inc., in brackets Lucy, to continue to operate and distribute the water supply for the Grafton water system for the next 5 years. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Booth. Comments from council.
To Carol. Carol, can you tell us what is the yearly cost? It talks about the 2.4% increase, but what is it that we pay yearly to Lucy?
We pay approximately $187,000. Now, that has included a contingency and a overtime. It depends on every year. So it's $2,700 more than they had quoted us before, or that we were paying before. But like I said, it really depends on if there's overtime and if something happens that they have to be out longer for, because that's $75,000 in contingency and overtime included in that cost.
Okay, thank you.
Admin CAO 2021-05 from Troy Gilmore, Christmas holiday office hours. Be it resolved that the report from Troy Gilmore, CAO, dated November 18th, 2021, re Christmas holiday office hours, be received and filed. Could I have a mover, please? Straightforward.
Yeah, I can talk at, like you said, it's pretty straightforward. I just want to get it on the table, and when this is approved, we'll get it on all our social media, so all the public is aware of our hours.
Okay, thank you. Anything from council? Calling for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Item 11.2. Report number A016 2021 from Pat Kemp, acting clerk. Meeting date for the council and planning meetings for 2022. Be it resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, dated November 18th, 2021, re-meeting date for council and planning meetings for 2022 be received. And further, that council approve the proposed calendar for council and planning meetings for 2022. And further, that the dates be posted on the township's website. I have a mover. Mayor Gibson. Any questions or comments from council?
I just want to make sure that this can be amended next year if possible, because we are asking from Troy a report from staff about possibility of having evening meetings next year.
And committee of the whole. So if council were to decide to do that,
This can be changed, right? It's not carved in stone.
no, but we'd probably work around our Thursdays and work around our meeting days.
Yeah. I'm just talking about like it can be changed. It's not like it's something that's it for the year. And
No,
then
if-
I guess we'll get something from Troy in the future, a report on some evening meetings or something.
Yes, I can draft something for the new year, and I'll have a discussion with Pat, and I'm sure it can be changed if council chooses to go with the odd evening meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the vote on this one if there isn't any other, question, Mike? Or you voting?
No, I was voting.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Item 11.3, Report number A017, 2021 from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, wedding officiant for the township of Alma Calderman. Be it resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, dated November 18th, 2021, re-wedding officiant for the township of Alma Calderman be received. And further, that council approve Pat Kemp, acting clerk, as the marriage officiant for the township of Alma Calderman. And further, that the necessary bylaw be passed and the office of the Register General be notified. Can I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second, Councillor Philp. Any questions or comments? It's pretty straightforward. None? Calling for the vote, all in favor? Carried. Item 11.4. A018, 2021 from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, electronic file management. Be it resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, dated November 18th, 2021, electronic file management be received and filed. And further, the council approve sole sourcing of the electronic file management program to Image Advantage Solutions, Inc. for the electronic file management of the Township of Alma Calderman records. And further, that the cost be taken out of the modernization fund. I have a mover. Councillor Hogg, second. Councillor Philp. Pat first.
So, Madam Mayor and members of council, the reason why I'm suggesting that we sole source this item is because it is a filing system that is compatible with our palm rooms, which we are using now. And Image Advantage, I have used them before in a previous municipality. And I've also contacted a similar municipality, North Kawartha, to see how they found the program, and they were very happy with it. So that's the reason for the sole sourcing suggestion. And we can take it out of the modernization fund.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, and you had your figures in the report. So all in favor? Carried. Fund money has come in pretty handy for us. Item 11.5. Report number A019, 2021 from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, appointment to the Alma Calderman Public Library Board. Be it resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, dated November 18th, 2021, reappointment to the Alma Calderman Public Library Board, be received and filed. And further, that council amend bylaw number 42-2015 and bylaw number 60-2021. And further, that council approve by bylaw the appointment of Deputy Mayor Sherry Gibson to the Alma Calderman Public Library Board, effective November 18th, 2021. Have a mover, please. Councillor Booth, second. Councillor Philip.
Sure that bylaw number 60-2021 is, so in Pat's report, there's 3 bylaws, and in the motion, it leaves out bylaw 114-2021. I just want to make sure which one is correct.
Amend the second line. Is that what you're talking about? In that?
So in the
further
report,
amend-
it says council amend bylaw 42-2015, bylaw 60-21, and bylaw 114-2021. But on the agenda, it only lists the amendment for 42-2015 and 60-2021.
Okay.
Sorry, I can speak to that, Deputy Clerk Yolanda. In the report, it did state bylaw number 114-2021. That is an appointment of another individual to the library board. So that bylaw itself does not need to be amended. These are the original bylaws that need to be amended, the ones that were quoted in the motion on the agenda. Those are the actual ones that need to be amended.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Anything further? Counselor Booth?
So they're going to amend that then to remove, it talks about with each of the 2 wards, right? Because there's no more ward system.
There's not a ward system at this point, but the wards were left. It's confusing. I always thought that the wards were totally gone, but for some reason,
So is this coming back to us then, Pat, with an amended version of it? You're talking about it's going to be amended so somebody can look into that to see whether or not we are still saying that members shall be qualified citizens and each within the 2 wards. Have we been looking at that with the people that have been?
so we haven't been going by the ward system. I don't know why that was left in there for the library, and I don't even know if it's left in for the entire township.
That's what I'm saying. So if we're going to amend it, Pat, can we look at that? Because it's probably shouldn't be in there.
Yes, we can look at that. That was what was in the existing bylaw. And
Okay.
because I don't have the familiarity with the township, I didn't know whether or not that was one of the criteria that council were interested in keeping, is having someone from each of the former municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We can still pass this today, Pat?
We can defer the bylaw until next meeting on December the 2nd if you would prefer, council.
Could you repeat that, Pat, please?
I'm sorry. You can defer it until December the 2nd if council so chooses, or yeah, because the bylaw as it's written now has the 2 ward system in it.
For this to December 2nd. And then the correct, you can look at it. Been in the past referenced to appointments by that ward system.
So I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, you kept putting it on me, but if I'm understanding council correctly, there should not be reference to the 2 ward system. And if that's the case, then I can bring the bylaw back to the December 2nd meeting based on that.
Okay, bring it back to December 2nd is what I'm hearing. But we can still appoint Sherry. Can we do that? By what we have with the first 2 bylaws? Amending number 42 and amending number 60?
I believe in the bylaw. Just let me pull the bylaw. Yes, bylaw number 128/2021 does not reference where individuals would be coming from. It just indicates that Deputy Mayor Gibson would be appointed to the bylaw. So you're fine to approve that bylaw today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the motion was to approve, moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Phil. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Six, report number A 2020-21 from Pat Kemp, acting clerk. Strategic plan review revisions. Be it resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, dated November 18th, 2021, strategic plan review revisions be received. And further, that council directs staff to post the revisions on the township website and ask for comments from the public until December 17th, 2021. And further, that a final report be presented to council once all the comments have been received.
So, Madam Mayor and members of council, the first 4 pages of the charts is your existing strategic plan. I just updated it by adding a 5th column that's highlighted in a bluey-green color. And that just provides you with the status of where we are as of November the 1st when I prepared this report. And then the last 2 pages of that strategic plan are the 2 new initiatives that council had directed staff to prepare. So the one was investigate a new municipal building and the other one was to investigate a new well. So those are 2 new objectives under the strategic plan. And if council wants anything further, then I need direction to do that. I know there had been some talk about economic development in one of the council meetings, but there wasn't an official resolution to directly to do that, so I have not included that. But if council chooses to do that, I just need the direction, please. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we have the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee review scheduled for November the 30th. And based on what comes out of that report, things may change as well. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I can't hear you.
Can you pick up on that, Yolanda?
Sorry, Pat, your audio is going in and out quite an awful lot. I'm not sure if it's a connection problem.
Sorry.
But it was very difficult to understand what you had just told council. So I'm not sure if there's something, I don't know if you're wearing a headset or.
No, I'm not.
No.
I'll try again.
So I got the building of a new administrative building.
Correct.
In the future.
And
we spoke at another day about economic development, but we didn't add economic development, anything for economic development. So that might be perhaps something the community may wish to speak on as well. And I missed the third thing.
The new well.
The new well, right. Okay. So well, new building, new admin. Website, and once it comes back, we could then talk about economic development if that's the will of council.
Correct.
Okay. So we didn't miss anything else then?
No.
Okay, we got it. So I've got Sherry as the mover of this motion, and who second? Councillor Hogg. Anything further to add? Council in our mix-up? No? Okay, calling for the vote. All in favor? Seven. Report number A021 2021 from Pat Kemp, committee appointments. Be it resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, acting clerk, dated November 18th, 2021, recommittee appointments be received and filed. And further, that council approve by bylaw the appointment of John Logal to the Grafton Communal Water Committee effective November 18th, 2021. And further, that council approve by bylaw the appointment of Debbie Ward to the Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee effective November 18th, 2021. Have a mover, please. Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Councillor Booth. Council? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Items 12, committee report. This is the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority minutes of the Board of Directors, October 21. Be it resolved that the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority minutes of the Board of Directors of October 21, 2021 be received and filed. Can I have a mover, please? Communications, correspondence from Fred Hahn, President of QP Ontario, read the OMERS investment performance. Be it resolved that the correspondence from Fred Hahn, President of QP Ontario, re OMERS investment performance be received and filed, and further that this requires council's direction that we support this or circulate it. What do you wish? Sherry?
Can we have input, if possible, from our treasurer on the implications of supporting this?
Okay. Carol, can you answer?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't right on. What is it that you're asking about supporting?
The OMERS investment performance correspondence we received.
Okay, yeah, and I've just gotten notification that the AMO is going to look further into that before
Okay.
anybody is suggested to actually go through with it. So I think we
Okay.
should maybe put it on hold for now.
So waiting comments from AMO.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll reread it then. Be it resolved that the correspondence from Fred Hahn, President of QP Ontario, re OMERS investment performance be received and filed, and further that council waits for further information from AMO. When you're moving it, Sherry?
I'll move.
Okay, a second, Councillor Philp. All in favor? Carried. Correspondence from the Greenbelt Foundation dated October 27th. This is item 13.2. Improving trail accessibility, new reports, women in agriculture. Rhonda Bateman, CAO Lower Trent Conservation, dated November 1st, 2021, re MECP regulation and transition plans. The Minister of Infrastructure, dated November 4th, re Ontario government reaffirms commitment to small rural and northern municipalities. Kate Campbell, Director of Communications, Northumberland County, dated November 4th, 2021, media release, Northumberland County partners with community hospitals to enhance local services and patient care experience. And Community Care Northumberland, dated November 10th, 2021, caring for our community. Be it resolved that these motions be received, or this correspondence be received and filed. any of them? All in favor? Carried. Item 14 are bylaws, and we have a few. So 14.1 is bylaw number 122-2021. And this is regarding the erection of stop sign at Skyview Road and Wicklow Road. Be it resolved that bylaw number 122-2021, being a bylaw to provide for the erection of a stop sign at the following intersection within the municipality of Township of Alma, Calderman, Skyview Road and Wicklow Road, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November, 2021. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Hogg, second. Councillor Philp, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 123-2021. This is the one to authorize the civil marriage solemnization service for the township. Be it resolved that bylaw number 123-2021, being a bylaw to authorize the civil marriage solemnization service in the township of Alma, Calderman, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November, 2021. Could I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Gibson. Second. Councillor Booth. All in favor? Carried. My computer. 3. Bylaw number 126-2021, amending bylaw number 09-2019, bylaw to appoint township crier. Be it resolved that bylaw number 126-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 09-2019, being a bylaw to appoint a township crier for the Township of Alma, Calderman for the fiscal years 2019 and 2020, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November, 2021. Can I have a mover, please? Jim? Second? Councillor Philip? So this will amend the appointment of the township crier to 2021 and 2022. All in favor? Carried. 14.4, bylaw number 127-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 42-2015, being a bylaw to establish a public library in the Township of Alma, Calderman regarding the appointment of board members to the AH Public Library under Section 10 of the Public Libraries Act. Be it resolved that bylaw number 127-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 42-2015, being a bylaw to establish a public library in the Township of Alma, Calderman regarding the appointment of board members to the Alma Calderman Public Library under Section 10 of the Public Libraries Act, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November, 2021. Mover?
So, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
this is the bylaw that has under item 1, the issue regarding each of the 2 wards being represented by at least 2 members. So I would suggest that you defer this until the December 2nd meeting.
Well, regarding the appointment of the board members to the Alma Calderman Public Library under Section 10 of the Public Libraries Act will be deferred until December 2nd, 2021.
Thank you.
Bylaw number 128-2021, being a bylaw to appoint members to the Alma Calderman Public Library Board for the term of council. Number 128-2021, being a bylaw to appoint members to the Alma Calderman Public Library Board for the term of council be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November 2021. And the new appointment is Sherry Gibson, Deputy Mayor Sherry Gibson. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Booth, second. Councillor Philip. Nine 2021, being a bylaw to amend number 6021, being a bylaw to appoint members to all the boards and committees for the Township of Alma Calderman for the term 2019 to 2022. Be it resolved that bylaw number 129-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 60-2021, being a bylaw to appoint members to all the boards and committees for the Township of Alma Calderman for the term 2019 to 2022, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November 2021. Moved by carried. Bylaw number 130-2021, being a bylaw to authorize the signing and execution of acknowledgement and direction for the purpose of transfer of easement to Michael Quibell and Penelope Pick Quibell for an existing buried electrical line and existing buried water pipe for lots 12 and 13. Plan 370, Township of Alma Calderman, now in the Township of Alma Calderman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 130-2021, being a bylaw to authorize the signing and execution of an acknowledgement and direction for the purpose of transfer of easement to Michael Quibell and Penelope Pick Quibell for an existing buried electrical line and existing buried water pipe for lots 12 and 13, Plan 370, Township of Calderman, now in the Township of Alma Calderman, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November 2021. Mover, Deputy Mayor Gibson, second. Councillor Philip. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 131-2021, being a bylaw to appoint an emergency information officer and public information officer for the Township of Alma Calderman and alternate pursuant to the standards established by regulation under the Emergency Management Act 1990 as amended. Be it resolved that bylaw number 131-2021, being a bylaw to appoint an emergency information officer and public information officer for the Township of Alma Calderman and alternate pursuant to the standards established by regulation under the Emergency Management Act, RSO 1990 as amended, be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November 2021. Can I have a mover, please? Steen and Kathy. Jennifer Steen and Kathy Moran will be the officers. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 132-2021. A bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Be it resolved that bylaw number 132-2021, a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act be read and deemed to be passed this 18th day of November 2021. Could I have a mover, please? There's an all-day meeting on December 1st with emergency management, and I'm to be there, but I have a meeting in the morning for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I'm wondering if one of you would sit in for that. It's at the Station 3, and then I'll be out.
What date is that, Gail?
December 1st, and
That's a Wednesday?
it's a Wednesday. I have a county committee meeting that day. Greg's the fire rep. I'm wondering if,
Sure.
and if you can't do it, maybe
Nope. it's
Jim,
open.
you can let Jim know, and then I'll be there.
Yeah, will you send me the details?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay,
Put it
that's
in,
good.
yeah.
I'll send it to both of you. Item 15, announcements and notice of motions, and I have a proclamation here to read. I'm just going to read the front version of it. It's, I can find it.
Just a minute.
I have two, actually. I'm going to add another one. Yeah, I got it here now. This is, the first one is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. It's dated, the date is November 25th. Whereas violence continues to be the greatest gender inequality rights issue for women, girls, and gender diverse individuals, and where November is Women Abuse Prevention Month, and whereas gender-based violence is a human right issue, which our community must work together to address, prevent, and address through public awareness and education. Whereas 1 in 3 women will experience gender-based violence in their lifetime, and these numbers increase exponentially for Black, Indigenous, and women of color. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has increased barriers to support and provide services for survivors of gender-based violence and their children. Whereas last year in Ontario, every 13 days, a woman or child was killed by a man known to them, with the majority being their current or former intimate partner. And where this is month and throughout the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, we acknowledge our community's support of the Wrapped in Courage campaign and commitment to ending gender-based violence. Whereas on November 25th, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, a Wrapped in Courage 2021 campaign flag will be raised in recognition that the courage of women alone is not enough. It takes an entire community to end gender-based violence. And now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Alma, Calderman does hereby proclaim and declare that November 25th shall be known as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Information is this is International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and we meet next on December 2nd, but I thought Jennifer could get this on our website as the date for this is December 3rd. Whereas December 3rd of each year is observed by the United Nations as International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And whereas the day is an opportunity to promote the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities in all spheres of society and development, and to increase awareness of the situation of persons with disabilities in every respect of political, social, economic, and cultural life. And whereas Alma Calderman is committed to accessibility and ensuring that people of all ages and abilities enjoy the same opportunities as they live, work, visit, and invest in our community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Gail Latchford, on behalf of Alma Calderman Township, hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2021 as International Day of Persons with Disabilities in our municipality and the county of Northumberland. I'll give this to you, Yolanda, because it wasn't on the agenda. I have for me at this time. Deputy Mayor Gibson.
Thank you, Mayor. The West Northumberland physician recruitment meeting that was to be held on Wednesday this week was canceled due to a personal emergency with Maria Gomez. So that'll be rescheduled. And I just wanted to say that I'm happy and excited to be a part of the library board and looking forward to attending those meetings. I'll expect that I'll be added to the
Next meeting.
invites at this point. Then somebody will look after that so I can put in my schedule.
Yes, I'll reach out to the library, make sure you're on the mailing list.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for doing that. Councillor Phil?
I have nothing at this time to add.
Yeah, the Rose Needs Memorial Service on November the 11th. And our mayor emceed the event, and it went over very well. I laid a wreath for the township, and we had a very good crowd, and we had very good weather. It was a good day.
Yep, it was. And what about Grafton? They have a good turnout?
Grafton had a wonderful turnout, and as always, that service was well done. I was actually quite impressed with the demeanor of the school kids. So both Grafton Public and St. Mary's Elementary were in attendance. They laid wreaths. They were, and actually Pastor I've forgotten your name, actually made mention of how great it was to have the kids out and how respectful they were. The other involvement of and I'm gonna get the names wrong probably, but like the youth infantry, and they marched in and stood guard at the cenotaph was exceptional. The kids did an amazing job. So it was a bit windy down in Grafton. We had lovely weather, but it was windy.
Yeah. I found that people were quite anxious to be out and participating in Remembrance Day. Okay. The next item is 16, and we're going into closed session. Following the adjournment of the regular council session of Thursday, November 18th, 2021, the Council of the Township of Alma, Calderman will be holding a closed session in accordance with Section 2392 B, C, E, and I of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, to discuss personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local last page. Okay. Sorry. To discuss personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, to discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality of local board, and to discuss a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. With the CAO, Deputy CAO, Manager of Finance, HR, Acting Clerk, Deputy Clerk, and Fire Chief remaining in attendance. Item 17.1, This is the confirming bylaw number 133-2021 for November 18th. Be it resolved that bylaw number 133-2021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council session held on Thursday, November 18th, 2021, be read and deemed passed this 18th day of November, 2021. Can I have a mover, please? Next upcoming meetings, budget meetings are scheduled for Monday, November 22nd, 2021, and November 23rd, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. A special council strategic planning meeting has been scheduled for Tuesday, November 30th, 2021 at 12:30 p.m. Regular council meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 2nd, 2021 at 12:30 p.m. Be it resolved that the regular session of council of Thursday, November 18th, 2021 be adjourned at 2:20 p.m. Have a mover? Jim and Sherry, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, everyone.